Hi, this is Heidi from Castlecast and Down Below, and when I'm not watching my favorite TV shows, I'm listening to Set Lusting Bruce.
1, 2, 3, 4! Busted out of class, had to get away from those fools. We learned more from a 3-minute record than we ever learned in school. Turn out I hear the neighborhood drummer sound. I can feel my heart begin to pound. You say you're tired, you just wanna close your eyes, follow your dream down. We made a promise, swore we'd always on a street, baby, no surrender. Like soldiers out every night, about to be there. No retreat, baby, no surrender. Faces grow sad.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and we are recording this during Thanksgiving week. It'll come out in a few weeks, but tell you what, this has been a pretty good little Bruce Springsteen year. So there's a lot of us Bruce fans that should be feeling pretty grateful. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Matthew, who is joining me, would be leading the charge. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, Jesse. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, I'm so glad you could join me. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, I just turned 20 in October. I born and raised in the Houston area, just north of Houston, in a town called Spring, right near the Woodlands. And I'm a sophomore in college. I'm a business major at A&M, and I've been into Bruce since the Magic Tour. Well, I first heard about him on the Rising Tour. I was very, very young, and then I kind of forgot about him. And then one day, around this time of year, his Santa Claus is Coming to Town came on the radio, and my dad looked at me and he said, "Hey, do you remember who this guy is?" And I said, "No, who is he?" And my dad said, "This is Bruce Springsteen." And I thought, man, that name sounds so familiar. And he said, "Yeah, and he's coming to Houston in April if you want to go to a concert." And I said, "I mean, why? I mean, sure, why not, you know?" So we went to the first show, and it was absolutely amazing, and I was hooked on Bruce ever since.
Which was this in the Magic Tour or?
Yes. This was the show right before Danny died. It was it was this one show before Danny died. The next one would have been after he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I've said often on the podcast that there's two kinds of people. People that go to a Bruce Springsteen show go, wow, that was an interesting show. And then others that go, oh my goodness, I want to sell everything I own and go everywhere I can to see this guy as often as I can.
Yes.
So sounds like you were on the second category.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just turned 20, so I only have so much power and so much say in, where we go, because my dad's the one that can swing all of this stuff and make all of this happen. So I was able to persuade him after that show. We ended up going to, we did Houston, then we did Jacksonville on the Magic Tour, then we did Houston again for Working on a Dream, then we did Tampa, Nashville, Then we did, I think, Tampa again. Then we did Kansas
Hmm.
City, and then this is on the Wrecking Ball tour now. And then
Yeah.
and after Kansas City, on the High Hopes tour, he came to Houston again, and then
I was at that show. That was a really good show at the Woodlands.
yeah, and I was the guy that one step up sign. I was up there in the pit for whenever he played one step up for the first time in like 26 years. That
Really?
that was my sign. That was my sign.
Wow. Because, Matt, I think that's one of my live show highlights.
Oh yeah,
I loved him saying, "We don't know this.
yeah.
You have made your bed,
Uh
sir."
huh.
And to hear them doing, and just basically it was him and Patty, and then come in quietly band.
Yes.
That is one of my favorite moments. And then also, and we're going to talk about your moment in the sun in a little bit, but the two brothers who got
Uh
on
huh.
and sang "No Surrender,"
Yes.
um, I I think that is the definition of
Uh
joy.
huh.
Those two on there. So
Absolutely.
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They definitely look like they had the time of their life up there. And I got a video of them up there, and I put it on YouTube out there. And um, those guys, actually watched them like a couple weeks ago, and they were like, it was very very cool to see like their reaction and like how they felt on stage. And at the same time, I was like, that's so cool, but like I thought to myself, if I were to ever get on stage with Bruce, I would want to do something completely different, and I would really want to like try and like in other words, I wouldn't want him to look forward to me getting off of the stage. Like, all right, like, all right, kid, like you're done. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to feel like I was a part of the performance, and so that was my ultimate goal.
That's interesting. So before we get into that, tell me, it sounds like your dad and you bond musically. Talk about growing up. What kind of music did your family listen to?
Well, growing up, I didn't really listen to a whole lot of. I guess I didn't really have a favorite band or really anything like that because, for whatever reason, I mean, of course, I have a couple of favorite songs, but they weren't mostly from one particular band or one particular artist. My whole family kind of
Yeah.
has a different taste in music. My sister likes like the newer stuff, like the hip hop rap stuff. She's a couple years older than me. My mom likes her stuff. I'm not really sure what she's into. And my dad, of course, is an old soul, and he likes Paul McCartney. Of course, Springsteen is his favorite. Like the Who. A lot of guys like he likes a lot of old bands, old rock and roll. That's his favorite. And then so whenever I saw Bruce live, I had recognized a few of the songs because I had watched the Barcelona concert over and over again as a little kid, and then I, for whatever reason, just forgot about it. Of course, like Born to Run, I recognized, of course, Badlands. I recognized the Rising someday, a lot of the Rising songs, and of course the everyday encore songs like the Thunder Road. I recognize. Now, of course, Thunder Road is
Mhm.
my dad's favorite song, and it always will be. He said, "Matthew, whenever I die, you're going to play this song at my funeral." And I said, "All right." So,
Nice.
whenever I got into listening to Bruce, that was kind of who I really, I guess that his music was the one, I guess, genre of music that really connected with me the most out of all of the other bands that I had listened to. Now, of course, there are other bands that I listen to. I listen to other music, but it's,
Yeah.
9 songs out of 10 is probably Bruce Springsteen. You know.
Um. So you're a college student. How big is Bruce's fan base there in college among people your age?
I don't expect a lot of people to know a lot of know Bruce Springsteen songs, but if I do expect them to know who he is. Most
Right.
of everybody knows who he is. Like they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of him. And I say like, it's like, what songs do you know? And they're like, oh, I can't really name them. And I'm like, the song? He goes, Born in the USA. They're like, oh yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, that is Bruce Springsteen. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And so it's not very down here. There are some fans, and I've found a couple of my friends on the Bruce hardcore, but I was pleasantly surprised, and it actually made me feel very good at the other places that I've been to where his fan base is younger. Where I've seen a lot of people in my generation attending the shows, and in big numbers too, because
Yeah.
like I guess at a show is when you'll see like, okay, like these are, like I like you is when you will obviously find someone around your age that is into Bruce Springsteen. And whenever I went up to Philadelphia, I was wowed at how many college kids around my age, 22, 23, that were big Springsteen fans, and they were right up there close with me. Like I met this beautiful couple that had just graduated school together, and they were at their third show together, and I got to talk with them a lot. And big to Bruce. I met Tom England, the guy who got up on stage and sang "Working on a Highway" with Bruce Springsteen in St. Louis, I believe, and he's also a college student.
Yeah. And a former guest on the podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you'll have to go back and listen to Tom's episode. Yes, he joined me and talked about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to go back and check that out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so me and Tom did a little bit, and I met him right before the show, and he was, he gave me a couple pointers, and I didn't even know that it was that guy, and then he said, "Oh wow, like I see your sign, I can't help but notice it." And I said, "Yeah, it's like Mary, like I wasn't bragging about the sign because what kind of a person would." Be completely serious about trying to get on stage with, Bruce. And so I was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is just there just because it's just like a Hail Mary, like a bomb, like we will see what happens. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I was a guy that played on him in St. Louis, and I was like, oh wow. Like then we started talking a whole lot more. So
Matt, I'm curious. You were there at the Houston show where the brothers got on and did No Surrender.
Yeah.
And you obviously you've seen the video of Tom England, doing, by the way, great job on Working on the Highway. I thought it was great. So, and you've already had one sign request played. What kind of led you to think about, okay, I'm going to the show, and I'm going to put a sign to see what could happen. My Hail Mary pass, as you said.
Yeah.
What kind of was your thought? Was it seeing the brothers on stage, or kind of what happened? What kind of gave you the germ of this idea, the kind of thinking about it?
Well, that getting on stage in Philly was actually my second time on stage with Bruce, and a lot of people don't know this. My dad and I were actually both able to Oklahoma City. We were we have a buddy named Justin who lives in Utah, and I actually met him at the Houston show, and we went to the 2 LA shows, and we did the whole lottery procedure, didn't get in, but we were still very, very close. And, Bruce, of course, under Hungry Heart and like I'm a Rocker, come out to that second little mini stage, and we were super, super close, and we had a very fun time there. And then he said, during Dancing in the Dark, this dude, I forgot what his name was, but he made a sign that said, "Dancing with the boss is a man's job." And he had this cutout, and his face was in the little, circle, and he was able to get on stage, and then he played with Bruce. And these were the first shows where I had started learning how to play the guitar, and I'm a very fast learner at guitar. Like my roommate has been teaching me every single day, and I've gotten pretty good at it. And so that was the first show where I had that little experience. So I was like, maybe at this next show, I will try to make a sign so I can get on stage during Dancing in the Dark and play Bruce. And so we got lucky, and Justin had these Oklahoma City tickets. And that was, I'll take my sisters, and I'm after you 2 shows. This is my first one, and I'll be able to take my sisters. And I said, yeah, absolutely, you guys go. And he gave us Justin basically the tickets for very, very cheap. But then one of my sisters couldn't go, and so I was able to go again. So I said, okay, well, to make this really cool, I'm going to make a sign to try to get on stage with Bruce. I actually made a sign. I forgot what it said. It was a big sign, and it was to play No Surrender. But he looked over. He didn't really like. I feel like he was kind of about it because, my sign that got me on stage was No Surrender 2.0. That was the sign. And I also made a sign that said, "Dancing with a Red-Headed Woman is a father and son's job." So it was kind of like a spin-off of the
okay.
in LA. So Bruce, during the prom slam, he saw my big No Surrender sign, and then I also had a sign for Racing in the Street. And then he went into the Promised Land, and he looked right at me, and I was doing a gesture of his. It's like where you kind of put your arm up in the air, and you kind of do like a little twirl with your hand, and he saw
right,
and then he made contact with me, and then he started doing it. Lifted up his hand, and he was doing exactly what I was doing, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like we just made contact. This is so cool. So, he was kind of hanging an eye on me during the entire show because I had like 3 signs going up after every single song. So after the plan, he ended up giving me the harmonica. So then I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like this show is totally worth it! Like oh my gosh, it's this harmonica! Like oh my gosh!"
Sure.
And then so then Dancing in the Dark comes on. My dad holds up this sign, and he's jumping up and down, and Bruce looked right over to us, and then he kind of like, actually, we had Dancing with the Red-Headed Woman, but Patty wasn't at the show. So we were like, crap. So I had this gold Sharpie in my back pocket, and then I crossed out red, and we put blonde for Susie.
Ah, yes.
He was kind of like looking over towards Susie during the song, and he was smiling right at us, and my dad and I were like we got this like big reality check. We're like, oh my gosh, this is about to happen. Like, what is going on? And then, sure enough, he brought us on stage, and like, I guess I got the first time I was on stage, I got all like the nerves out or whatever, because the second time I was on stage, I found myself a lot more calm. Like I've done this before. So that answers the question of how I was so calm on stage. But that first show, I felt like I was throw up the entire time. Mm-hmm. But like in a good way, because I was just so excited that Bruce was sitting right there, and it was just super, super cool. But that was the first time, and then I was watching.
And so you guys got to dance with Susie.
Yes, we got to dance with Susie, and then Bruce. I said Bruce, and then I gave him the guitar. And I'm sorry. Then he gave me the guitar. Was that guitar guy that he always brings up on stage, like for dancing guitar. So I felt like $1 million there, and it was just super, super cool. And I got to see where he you totally get where he gets his energy. Like the crowd is just amazing. And so that was that. And then I was thinking, man, if I wish I would have gotten a guitar pick or something. I'm the kind of person that thinks how stuff could have been better, and it's something like for whatever, like what reason, like I wasn't complaining at all, but I was like, man, like I wish I would have told him this. Like I wish I would have, and, this, and I wanted Bruce to remember me. Like that was the thing. Like I wanted Bruce to remember me somehow, and so came along, and he released a couple more dates up northeast, and I said, hey Dad, Bruce is going to Philly, and this Philly show happened to be the only one that fell on a Saturday, and I wouldn't miss any school, because that was a big that I wouldn't miss any school.
Sure.
And so it was either Friday or Saturday, I forgot. But we ended up going and getting tickets for that show, and I was super excited about it because they say either see Bruce in Jersey or Philly or at Madison Square Garden, and so I felt super cool about going to this show, and I didn't really know how the pit system worked. I was just like, again, like when I made this sign, I thought I could easily be like one of the last people to go into the pit. Like this used to not work. And I will be totally fine with it. So
Yeah.
we get to Philadelphia. I we go on the subway, and it turns out to be the wrong subway.
Oh no.
We met these college kids throwing this football in the subway station. We were like, hey, like, which subway did we get on to go to Citizens Bank Park? And they're like, oh, you must be going to do the show. And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, cool, us too. I saw me with my sign. I told them about my signs. And it ended up being the wrong subway, so it delayed us about 20 minutes. So we get to the venue, and this is at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock-ish, because they were handing out 1,500 wristbands. And what their lottery deal is they don't take a certain number. They take everybody. It's just like we were numbers 1305 and 1306, and the winning lottery number was 1227. So we were like the 80 people to go in. But that subway was super important because had we gotten on the correct subway the first time, we would have been numbers like 1100. So
yeah.
None of this would have ever happened if we would have gotten on the correct subway. So thanks to the guys that got me on the wrong way was the reason why all of this happened. But
Matt, it's kind of funny, right? That there's so many things that have to go right.
Absolutely.
And I love your attitude of, where you're going, I'm playing on house money, right? That I've already been on stage, I've got to dance with Susie, and but hey, let's bring a sign, let's what we can do. Now, when the video's out there, and we'll include a link to one of the versions of it, but it really looked like you had rehearsed, like I don't know if you've seen the movie Creed, but where Michael B. Jordan is actually has this huge video of his father's fights up, and he's shadow boxing that. It almost looks like you had Barcelona or whatever DVD you could have up on this huge screen, and you like playing along with it like you're rehearsing with the band.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me how you got ready to go do this kind of cool thing.
Well, I've been watching Bruce for like ever and ever and ever. I've performed the song live many times, so I kind of knew his little gestures, and like of course whenever you're jamming out to Bruce, like you can't help but kind of like I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes whenever I'm listening to music, sometimes I picture myself like I'm like the lead singer of the band, like I'm the one singing the song, and
sure.
And I guess right before the show, I was just kind of doing that, and I really kind of I looked up the chords to the song, and I was like, all right. Whenever I was picking up the song, I was like, all right, I've seen him bring people on stage with No Surrender before. I thought about working on the highway, but I thought out of respect to Tom England, I wanted to be original, and I didn't want to be like a copycat to him. So I thought, how about No Surrender? So I looked at the chords. I was like, all right, I can easily play the song. Kind of rehearsed it, got the chords right, and then I really, honestly, didn't really rehearse the movements that much. I guess I just seen do it so much that it just came naturally because I was in the moment. I was doing all of those movements. And during the whole performance, I had no idea how similar me and Bruce looked, because I was doing my thing, and it happened to be exactly what Bruce was doing. And
It really did look like you had been rehearsing. And I'm glad you mentioned about not being nervous because you'd already done this. The energy, because it was, you can see how excited you were, and also how this air of confidence that I was really impressed by.
yeah, and to be honest with you, I was impressed by it too.
Yeah, you're like, who was that dude doing that? Because it sure couldn't have been me, right?
Yeah, I know. Like, what my whole goal was to perform the song the best that I could. I didn't want to clown. I wanted to perform it. You know, if it was the last day on Earth, and I got to perform
Yeah,
this song with Bruce, I wanted to leave it all on stage like, no, like I wish I could have done this. I wish this,
yeah.
and I just did. I was so focused, and I didn't really have a set plan because I honestly did not think I was going to get on stage. But
So I want to ask you that. Why do you think he? What do you think charmed him enough, or Lil Steven or whoever, to have you on, to get you on stage?
it was the fact that I was a college student, so I was young, and I wrote the chords
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
I guarantee you that those are probably the two things. Because on the sign, I like made the word college kid stand out, and I no surrender. And then at the bottom, I wrote all the chords like verse, chorus,
Okay.
break. So I was telling Bruce, I was in one sign, I was trying to tell him, Bruce, can I play you this song? Here's here's the reasons why I know this song. Here's all the chords to the song. Here's where I want my capo on the guitar. I can play this song. And I feel like he saw it, and then he was just kind of breezing over signs, and he saw a college kid, so he was probably like, oh, college, all right, oh, no surrender, oh wow, like the chords. Well, you actually know the chords. And he actually, can he play it? Can he play it? And of course, I'm young, so I can play it. I can play it. And my dad's saying, you can play it. You can play it. And then he kind of looked to Stevie, and then he waved me on stage.
Yeah. Because what's interesting is, they quiz Tom. If you hear the podcast, he talks about, what key it in, and he told him, and it was kind of like, and Bruce looks over and says, "Is that the right key?" And little Steven's like, "Yes, it is." So I think that was a nice touch of you showing, "Hey, I know this. Here's what it is. These are it."
Yeah, because if it says, can a college kid play No Surrender with Bruce, it could be a girl getting up there. It could be some crazy guy that wants to jump on stage and hug every single band member on stage.
Which is what the brothers did, right? Yeah.
It could be one of those, but I wanted to tell Bruce, look, I know this song, I want to play it. And that's how, whatever on the sign, it was exactly how I wanted Bruce to take it, and it worked. That's
awesome.
Yes.
So he makes the sign, he sends you up. I'm sure the first thought must be, don't F this up, right?
Yes.
Is that your first thought? Yeah.
My first thought when I got on stage was, like, whenever he waved me on stage, I got that same feeling that I did in Oklahoma. But again, I was like, no, like I have to push it aside. And I got on stage, and I was like, okay, like I was kind of pumping myself up. I was getting myself mentally prepared, because I was going to turn around and I was going to see 45, 50,000 people, and I didn't want to choke.
Right.
Now, So my first thought was, all right, like let's do this. And so that's exactly what I did, and it worked out great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
And um, obviously you did a great job. I love watching the video, and so and I thought you played it just perfectly. In other words, you got off stage fairly quick. You didn't overstay your welcome, I guess
yeah,
is how I'd put it, right?
yes, yeah. Like I knew I've seen where you can kind of tell. All right, look, I'm done. Versus, all right, like time to get off. Time to get off.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I was done. I was like, all right, is it like I need to say a couple things to Bruce, and then I'm gonna hop off stage. And
Yeah.
if it wasn't for my dad yelling, Matthew, selfie, picture,
Yeah.
I probably would have completely forgotten, and I would have, not the picture with Bruce. But I was like, oh, like I have to do this. I grabbed his phone, ran back up there. I was like, Bruce, like, quick. Then he was like,
Yeah.
like he was more than welcome to it, and I got
Yeah.
a couple pictures with him. And like, if I could go back, the only other thing was maybe have Stevie take like a really cool picture of like all crowd in the background instead of like this selfie of me throwing my hand up.
Yeah.
But I of course wanted, you know, I didn't want to overstay my welcome, I guess is the right way to put it.
Yeah. And I think you didn't.
Yeah.
That's good. So, okay, you're sitting down, and what are you thinking? I mean, it's over. Are you just walking on air?
I honestly, it's like you might be surprised. It felt like nothing had happened
Okay.
for whatever reason. Like I got off there and I was like, I didn't really know what to think. Like, cause I wasn't the one seeing the performance. I was the one in the
Right.
performance. So, and it all happened so fast. So I had no time to think, and I didn't rehearse it. So I was like, well, I hope this is good.
Yeah.
I'm doing this right. I had no idea if my voice sounded good. I had no idea if I looked like an idiot. I had no idea if, I had no idea what people thought about it until I got off the stage, and I had no idea. Like, I look back on the video, that's where I realized how cool it actually was because, I could see Roy on the big screen smiling. I could see Bruce looking over at other band members smiling, and the pictures that started coming out. I had no idea that any of that was happening, and it made me feel pretty cool. Getting look from the band members like Stevie, Max, Roy, all of those guys. So whenever I got off stage, everyone's saying explicit language like you effing killed it, bro. Like everyone was just mobbing me, and I was just like, hey, thank you, and I didn't really know what to think about it, and there was really nothing to do but to just move forward with the show.
Yeah.
And
so you enjoy the rest of the show, and I know it's a great show because hey, it's Bruce, so of course it's a good show.
It was a fantastic show.
You get back, and when did you guys go back to Texas?
We went back the very next morning, and after the show, that's whenever everybody pretty much mobbed me a second time, trying to get a picture with me. That's when some news guys came up to me. That's whenever all those news interviews that I did, that's where it all originated, right there. And I probably took 100 pictures with people after the show because Dad left. He went up to get something to drink about an hour before the show, and he took my portable charger, and my phone was dead. So I'm all around the whole arena trying to find him with a dead phone, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's the No Surrender guy," and so they would all stop me, and so I felt like a walking celebrity, walking around trying to find my dad, but at the same time being greeted by so many very, very nice people. and
Yeah.
it was probably one of the highlights of the moment. Just everyone showing their appreciation and love for what they thought of the performance, and that was honestly one of the biggest highlights for me was like having a couple of with some people who loved this show and being viewed as like that kind of a like I was that big of a moment for them, and it really made me feel good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And you've had a lot of interviews and I've read a couple of articles. People talked about it. I think you made Texas proud.
Yeah,
Uh,
honestly, I get stopped by random people, and they're like, "Dude, like, did you sing on Stadium Springsteen?" And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Dude, like, my parents told me about it, and we're from like Lubbock, Texas,
yeah.
like it's just the most random places that people find out all of this stuff, and how it somehow gets traced it somehow gets all the way back to me. That's some people in these random places know about the whole deal, and it's just crazy that that it was able to go that national. It was on Good Morning America, Today Show. Like
Yeah.
it didn't even trigger in my mind that kind of thing would happen after the show. But I guess since it was Philadelphia and it was a very like high show,
Yeah.
and I bet if Tom was working on a highway thing in Philly, he would have gotten the exact same treatment. But
Yeah.
it was insane. It was in St. Louis, and so I guess it's just kind of how the chips fell. But I mean, he had some wonderful interviews as well.
Yeah.
It was just,
And I do think that there is one, social media makes it a little bit easier,
uh-huh.
and two, uh, I think that Bruce has been a little bit more active with fans. I think he's always done it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think this, tour even more. And I do think because, you were a college student and he's just thinking about you. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to be creative in every way that I could, and it worked.
Yeah.
And like I knew if that guy can do it, I at least have a fighting chance. Because
Yes.
I didn't go into this thing thinking I want to get on stage with Bruce, like, and I'm going to be mad if
Right.
I'm not. But I came into it like, this would be super, super cool. If it doesn't happen, it's like I can totally understand. Like, no one has ever done
Yeah.
like this before. So I
Mhm.
was very, very. I guess I had a very gentle feeling about it, and I just kind of stayed cool the entire time. And what do you know? It happened.
That's awesome, Matt. I'm so glad, and I'm so glad you shared. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we kind of,
it was absolutely.
we kind of, I wanted to ask, are there some favorite, are there some favorite Bruce songs of yours you wanted to talk about? And is there anything that you haven't seen him do live that you really wish you could?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I saw Streets of Philadelphia live, and it was
That's nice.
very different style than the first night because I got both recordings, and Bruce added Roy's synthesizer on the second night, and it added a whole new touch of just such beautiful sound to the sound, and I was just in awe the entire time he was playing it. And so that was a song I wanted to hear live, and you can only hear it exclusively in Philadelphia.
Right.
There was a couple of other songs. Oh, and One Step Up is probably my favorite song. That one and Downbound Train. And I got to hear both of those at the Houston show in the Woodlands. They were both
Yeah.
my sign requests too, because I don't know if you knew, but on the back of my One Step Up sign, it was a very less neat sign, but it just in all sharp, it said Downbound Train.
Oh, nice.
And so I kind of got both. I got a double whammy there, and he played both of them, so I was able to hear both of those songs played. So those are probably my two favorite songs One
Okay.
song that I wish you would play live. That's a very good question. I'd always wanted to hear on this tour. Actually, there's a lot of them that got played that I'd always wanted to hear, like Jungle Lamb. I got to hear
Right.
Brilliant Disguise, Stolen Car, Point Blank. I guess I have to go back to tracks to kind of see.
Yeah.
Maybe a song like Loose Change, very obscure, but it's just very
Okay.
beautiful. Two Faces is one I would want to hear live too.
Okay.
I want to hear Born in the USA live. I feel like I need to hear that one live. I feel like I would love that one.
I got that in Louisville,
Yeah,
so it was
yeah,
pretty cool.
super lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
I would like to hear Tunnel of Love live.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. If I Should Fall Behind would be cool to hear.
Yes.
Um,
I agree.
Other than that, I'm not really. Maybe Human Touch would be a good one to hear live. I
Okay.
haven't heard that one live.
Okay.
I'm going through my like playlist of songs right now. I'm just
Yeah, trying to think. Yeah.
yeah, Reason to Believe as well would be cool to hear
Yeah.
live.
All right.
That.
So, if are you going to be able to? As we are recording this, they've announced that
Oh, I know.
he is making a book
Yeah.
signing an appearance, a book appearance. Are you going to be able to make it?
I'm not gonna be able to make it this time.
Yeah.
I saw Austin, Texas, and I was like, yes, like I have to go to this. I went.
Yeah.
Turns out it's the same day that I have an exam that I cannot reschedule, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, darn it, you know.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to make it either. I started a new job and I've got to figure out if I can go to my new boss and go, "Hey, I know I've been here only a week, but it's Bruce,
It's
so
Springsteen, you know. But
yeah,
yeah,
trying to see.
it's I mean, I'm not pouting that much about it because
Yeah,
I
sure.
kind of have like no room to talk and
Well, you're
and,
kind of,
yeah. I mean,
I mean, let's face it, you're really like, an unofficial member of the E Street Band, right? So,
yeah.
with my tongue firmly in cheek. Matt, this has been a joy. I'm so glad you got to join me. Good luck on your exams. Good luck on finishing your semester, and I hope you have a great holiday season. And, maybe we can have you on again sometimes. It'd be fun to have you and Tom both on sometime.
Oh yeah, that'd be
So,
great. We could probably talk for hours.
yeah. If someone wants to reach you, how can they?
You guys can reach me at my phone number 713.
No, you don't want to give that.
Oh, not the phone number.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows what you'll get
Yeah,
it. So
true.
maybe your Twitter or something.
Twitter.
Or,
You can follow me on. You can find me on Facebook, and I've gotten lots of messages on there. You can follow me on Twitter at Matthew_Aucoin, and that's AUCOIN. Matthew_AUCOINN. I have two N's in my username. Now that I'm looking at it, you can follow me on Instagram, just my first and last name, Matthew_Aucoin, and you can just send me there, and we can chat and whatever you want to know, you can find out.
That'd be awesome. And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. If you want to be on the show and talk about your Bruce Springsteen, send me an email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com, or as I said, the show Twitter is setlistingbruce. Matt, thank you. I appreciate it. No retreat, no surrender. And listeners, we'll talk to you soon.
I'm on the street tonight, the lights grow dim, the walls of my room are closing in. There's a war outside still raging, say it ain't ours anymore to win. I wanna sleep beneath peaceful skies in my lover's bed. with the wide open country in Philly tonight, and these romantic dreams in mind. It was good.